Welcome back to Beyond Well. I'm Sheila Hamilton, and I will tell you, if there's ever been a time where I have heard more people talking about how to be well holistically, how to actually manage their interior worlds, it's right now. And that's why I'm so excited to be talking with Beatrice Birch. She's the co-founder of Inner Fire, Deep Healing Without Meds. I want to talk with you, first of all, Beatrice. You worked as an artistic therapist in integrative clinics. What is the type of background that you brought to that work?
Well, it's called Hauschka Artistic Therapy.
Okay.
And its foundations are in the roots of the Austrian philosopher and scientist Rudolf Steiner. And so through this, one also can grow to recognize that there are many aspects of the human being. So we all know we have a physical body, but we also have what's called an etheric, a life body, which is our center of memories and habits. And typically at Inner Fire, it's about breaking, changing, or dissolving old habits to let new ones, which are more life-giving, arise. And also that there simply is a rhythm to everybody's day at Inner Fire is key.
Yeah.
And then we have this aspect of ourselves, which is referred to as the astral body, which is our center of emotions, our sympathies and antipathies. And then we have our higher self. People say, well, how do you know if it's successful? The only thing I can honestly say is if when somebody leaves Inner Fire, they have connected with what I personally call the divine creative self. You know, some people refer to it as the witness or so. Also the charioteer who's guiding these wild horses, and that's our astral body, our ups and downs and taking us all over the place. If we've connected with that, then when you leave Inner Fire, you'll be able to manage situations in life better. We can't promise parents or spouses that their offspring will never have a challenge again in their life.
Right.
But they'll work with it in a totally different way.
Is your program primarily geared toward adolescents now?
No, the youngest we'll take is 18. The youngest we've had is 19.
Uh-huh.
And the oldest is 74.
Oh, how wonderful. So it's an integrated community as well.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And when you see, you know, the constellation of seekers who come at a certain time, it's really beautiful to see what they have to do with each other.
Yeah. Oh, and the inner workings of why they're all there to help one another, right?
And that's beautiful. Yeah.
I can imagine that during COVID-19, the number of people who have said that the pathway of their day has been so altered that that's probably a lot of the reason that they're suffering. So before we begin into the inner workings of your particular program, talk to me about how you individually are seeing this disruption and this moment in time when we're all being asked to abandon whatever routine or pattern we might have had and build new ones.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, personally, Inner Fire is considered an essential business, so we have not closed. But we have had people have to be in quarantine for a couple of weeks before joining us. And if you're coming from California, the way one person recently did, you know, that's a long time to be in some Airbnb when they're in a pretty desperate state. But you know, to me, it's really asking us, and in this time, in this world where we have such a difficult time socializing anyway, learning how to just be human in each other's company and learning how to claim our voice and express ourselves. It's, you know, to be then even more isolated is very, very challenging for people, but it's wonderful to see the resilience of people and how technology, I've never seen technology at its best, to be honest.
Technology is actually working for us, right?
Yeah. But I think, you know, for the folks at Inner Fire, so much of their life has been about not claiming their voice. And so, you know, a little bit of, you know, what's happening in Inner Fire is just what we need to practice doing, of course, in the broader world, is how do I claim my voice, stand there and say what I dare to say. But you also have to feel safe. You have to feel safe in that company.
So talk to me a little bit about the beginnings of Inner Fire and what the farm looks like and how people operate.
All right. Well, 15 years ago, if you asked me if I'd be doing something like this, I'd look at it and I'd look at you as if to say, do you know something I don't know? Because I was working at a rehab in Vermont, as a consultant, bringing the Hauschka Artistic Therapy, which I was going to say works on these different levels, works on these that I mentioned earlier. And, for instance, you work with clay with someone who you wouldn't possibly use watercolor with, so it's very important which mediums you use. It's not random, it's not free expression. But I was working at this rehab, and they obviously felt they could speak to me in a way that they didn't feel safe speaking to others. And there was one period of a couple of weeks where I had many young people come to me and come into the space and state, I hate being medicated. Isn't there a choice? And having worked in holistic practices in Europe, where we never medicated anybody, but we worked with the artistic therapies, which have to do with helping the soul to breathe again, and also with diet and so on. I knew there was a choice. And in fact, having lived in Europe for 25 years, coming back was a bit of a shock to see how quickly people were medicated. No one was being helped. They were just medicated and, quote unquote, maintained, which is a very disgusting word to me. You don't maintain human beings, right? You maintain tractors and trucks, but not human beings, right? And so I discussed options with them. I mentioned Robert Whitaker and his work, Mad in America and mindfreedom.org and many others. And it happened that after these people, eventually they left. And I heard within 2 years of 6 of these individuals leaving that they had taken their life.
Oh, geez.
And the first time it was bad enough, but when I heard yet more and more, and they had very clearly said, I am not prepared to live a zombie type existence, which is how they felt on the meds. And so we're not anti-medication, but we're pro-choice. When you have a choice in how you deal with the challenges that you or any one of us work with in life, that's incredibly empowering. But so these people, and so that was really why, I thought to myself, first of all, why did they ask me? Sort of the bigger picture, why did they ask me? And taking that very seriously, I know their choices. I know their options. I worked in Europe with many wonderful initiatives and had spent time in Holland at a rehab which was state funded, where they had a 65 to 70% recovery rate. You don't hear that in this country. We're 2 to 3 if we're lucky.
That's right.
That was with drug and alcohol. We're basically helping people first to come off very, very slowly and carefully their psychotropic meds to a level which works for them. In some cases, it may be totally off, and others they may find, I can't really go any lower. I've been on these too many years. Or we help people who want to avoid the medication in the first place, which would be wonderful to get, quote unquote, first breaks, which isn't the term I like, but often your first or second year in college. This is when these young people crumble at times. Or if you've been on benzodiazepines and you're trying to get off and have gotten off, but you're still reeling with the side effects of the withdrawal symptoms,
So I want to know just more about the physical beauty and sort of the way that the day unfolds for the people. Does it act as almost like a commune where everyone has to do chores, where they have to pitch in, or is it very much a top-down type experience?
Not at all. Not at all. No, we're on 43 acres. Most is woodland, and we're clearing one area of woodland so that we can have a pasture and have goats and milk the goats eventually. We have hens at the moment, and it's simply beautiful. It's simply and it's so interesting because this time of year about 6 or 7 years ago, my husband Tom and I saw it and realized this is the Inner Fire home.
Mm.
But it was the flowering crabapple and fruit trees which really sold the place to me. And we've done a lot of work, and we've created a healing herbs garden, because I would love for our seekers one day to see what it's like to start a small business
Yeah.
and make these ointments and sell them at the local farmers market. And everything is done by hand. Sheila, we built our own chicken coop, which is on wheels. We built our own hoop house. So really the wisdom behind it is, psychosis is when we get stuck in our heads, and our thoughts go round and round and round, and we're a victim of our thoughts. And so our education encourages that in this country. It's basically a head-based education, which only works for some. And so really one of the main keys about Inner Fire is helping people get out of their heads into their limbs. So for instance, every individual, doesn't matter, male, female, one young woman came, and I didn't even know if she could pick up an axe, but she was splitting wood for 2.5 hours a day. She was amazing, but everyone learns to chop down a tree with an axe. Two-person saw it, which is a social activity. Split the wood, stack the wood, and heat the house. I had one young man come into me in our first year saying, I've been splitting wood for 2.5 hours or so, and during that time I didn't hear voices.
Oh my goodness, because they're actually concentrated on a physical sensation in their body. Wow. Well, it makes perfect sense for me. I mean, I'm wishing that I could broadcast this to the millions of people just housed in their tiny apartments, unable to go anywhere. If you have even a closet size, you can learn yoga stretches and push-ups and sit-ups and ways to move your body. Exactly.
Or work with play or so. And I've had individuals doing the artistic therapy. It takes them, they get totally engrossed in it.
Yeah.
And they also don't hear voices.
Yeah.
You see, and so people feel that they're going to be controlled by their voices the rest of their life. It doesn't have to happen.
Yeah. I think that your vision for Inner Fire is so fascinating, given right now the complex makeup of the world and the way that we need to have these sustainable micro communities to survive.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you've been struck by that idea, like, whoa, we actually have everything we need right here, and we could survive this.
We could, because we grow our own vegetables.
Yeah.
And so everybody learns how. And so when you leave Inner Fire, you learn how to cook properly, which means, it's basically a 7-star restaurant here, but you're the cook. You're the harvester of the vegetables. You're the cook. So when you leave, you're empowered. You know how to cook properly if you want to continue to eat properly.
Oh, I love that.
That's your choice. But, sometimes they say, can't we have some sugar? And it's like, honey, you're here for a year. You can deal with no sugar for a year. When you leave, do whatever you want to do, but you'll have the experience of actually not getting ill in the winter.
Yeah.
Because you're outdoors, you're working your physical body, you've got rhythm and order in your life,
Yeah.
And you learn how to clean with biodegradable cleansers. And you learn how to garden properly. And in Vermont, it's a good thing to know how to split wood.
Yeah, incredible. So the program is a year. What is your retention rate? Like, how many just say, I can't live this kind of rural lifestyle versus how many continue? And then what is your long-term success rate, and how do you measure it?
Yeah. So it's, the reason I say it's a year, and we are more flexible than I was to begin with, but I just saw these other rehabs, people coming and going so quickly. And, I'm only interested in healing. If I wanted to start a business, I could find a much easier business to start.
Right.
And but if somebody says they've had enough, they've done what they can do, whether it's 9 months or 3 months, but, to really change these habits and to really develop this inner strength, this core strength, it takes time.
Yeah.
And so, of course, if somebody does want to go, we try to encourage them to stay, but you can't. They have to really want to be here. So we've had just over 30 people here, and maybe about half have stayed the full year.
Mm-hmm.
I should check that. Maybe about half. Others have been 9 months, 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
3 months. And
So wonderful that you're not pushing people out when they know they're not finished. It's one of my biggest critiques of recovery in America, and
yeah,
also the myth of being able to heal someone in a 4 to 8 hour psychiatric hold.
it's ridiculous.
especially,
But
what I love, Beatrice, is that you have acknowledged that mental illness is a crisis of our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our physicality. It's everything is sick, and none of those get better in
yeah,
one day,
exactly.
or by one pill.
And you were just throwing money away. And I'll also say, if there's a seeker who, I mean, we have had a seeker with us for 2 years. Yeah. But if there's a seeker who, and most individuals really want to recreate the program to suit their comfort level.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I say to them, it's not a holiday camp.
That's
you
right.
come for 3 days, you get a taste of what it's like, no strings attached. We see, are we a fit? Because we want to work with you if you'll take your healing seriously, you know? And yeah.
I just want to, it occurs to me that this is so intensive and so, the kind of framework that really does provide for total healing, it must be inordinately expensive. And how do people pay?
Well, as I say, I mean, the cost of it, it's about $450 a day. And where the Department of Mental Health in Vermont is very interested in what we're doing. And I'm hoping they're going to use this as a pilot project, because ethically, Sheila, we have to be available for people regardless of their race, religion, financial background. And, but we have amazing parents who second mortgage their homes, who go into their retirement funds. I mean, it breaks my heart. But, the guides, the people who work here, they get very minimal benefits. They are working here because they believe in the mission, but we have these proactive therapies. And when I say that, it's so important that when a seeker leaves, they know. I mean, one parent said, well, I've had it for more than one parent, but who say, you've healed my daughter or son. And it's like, no, well, you have not healed your daughter or son. They've stayed engaged in the program. Yeah. It hasn't been easy. They've worked through the challenges and they have healed themselves. And that's very key, Sheila, because, I've always felt you can become addicted to crack, to yard sales, to therapists.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. And we want people to
have
leave
their own skills,
knowing they've done it.
Yeah. I want you to talk about the vision for Inner Fire in the next few years, and also the importance of the Open Excellence Inner Fire Fund and how that's going to help keep this dream and this platform alive for people who are hoping to heal.
Sure. So the vision is we raised over $1 million and completed the east wing of the Inner Fire home. We need more. We need to build the heart of the home, and then the west wing. And what I would like to do, every parent or spouse who's been here has said to me, I need Inner Fire. They're exhausted. They're confused. They're angry. They're frustrated. And it dawned on me that when we can finish the heart of the home, then we actually could have retreats. And we could have parents come together, and they could engage in therapies. They could dig in the garden. They could try to balance their life. They can work amongst themselves. And, we could have guest speakers come and just guide and support them as well. And then I also got a call from somebody on the West Coast, a doctor there, whose main clientele, Sheila, are suicidal psychiatrists. And it's there are many excellent doctors out there who long to help, but when the pharmaceutical company had so much control of the situation that these psychiatrists told, we don't need you, we just need you to medicate. They can't, it's quite right. And I would love them to be able to come here and see a whole nother way of doing it, and they can engage. They need healing themselves.
And also all of the plethora of healthcare workers that are going through the most traumatic, trying times. I mean, I would love to see this. So if you want to find out more about this, the Foundation for Excellence in Mental Health Care is the supporter of this Inner Fire Fund, and you can be a donor to it, which I think is just such a wonderful
Yeah.
idea. Beatrice, I could talk to you all day long, but I'm wishing you total health and wellness at your beautiful place. Beatrice, again, the co-founder of Inner Fire Deep Healing Without Meds. Thank you again, Beatrice. It was such a pleasure to talk with you.
You're welcome, Sheila, and with you all too. Thank you for your support. It means a lot to us.